The tech billionaire woke up expecting his usual apology breakfast, but found only blood drops leading to an empty garage. His wife of 8 years had vanished without a word, leaving behind her wedding ring and a crimson stain on their marble floor. What he didn't know was that the woman he'd terrorized for years had been planning the perfect revenge, and she was already 3 moves ahead. Have you ever wondered what happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? Have you ever felt trapped in a situation where someone held all the power over you? Have you watched someone get away with terrible things because they had money and influence? This is the story of a man who thought his wealth made him untouchable, and a woman who proved him devastatingly wrong. But which one of them will survive what's coming next? Hit that subscribe button, because this revenge story will leave you questioning everything you think you know about justice. Let me take you back to where this deadly game of chess really began. She served him coffee in a $50,000 kitchen while hiding bruises under designer sleeves, perfecting the smile that had become her prison uniform. The Palo Alto mansion gleamed like a tech magazine cover. Glass, steel, and marble surfaces that reflected everything but never revealed the screams that echoed behind soundproof walls. Keisha Wellington moved through her morning routine with the precision of someone who knew the cost of mistakes. Steam rose from Marcus's imported Colombian beans while she calculated how many steps it took to reach the panic room. 43 from the kitchen island. She'd counted yesterday after he'd slammed her against the refrigerator for buying the wrong brand of cream. Your coffee, darling. The word tasted like poison, but she delivered it with honey sweetness. Marcus didn't look up from his tablet, already deep in the hostile takeover that would define his week. His jaw clenched as he read, and Keisha's body tensed instinctively. She recognized that expression. Someone was about to pay for his frustration, and she was the only target in reach. The Henderson deal fell through, he muttered, fingers tightening around his phone. 3 months of work down the drain because some bleeding heart board members got cold feet. Keisha kept her face neutral while her mind raced. The Henderson acquisition was Marcus's baby, a biotech company with promising cancer research. Losing it meant lost billions, wounded pride, and for her, a night of walking on glass. She moved toward the kitchen island, but his hand shot out faster than her reflexes. His grip on her wrist was casual, almost absent-minded, but the pressure made her bones creak. Where do you think you're going? His voice carried that deceptive softness that made her stomach drop. I haven't dismissed you yet. I thought you might want privacy for your calls. I want you exactly where I put you. His thumb pressed into the tender spot where he'd grabbed her 2 nights ago. You understand that, don't you, baby? The pet name sounded obscene in his mouth. She nodded, throat tight. His free hand traced the neckline of her silk blouse, fingers lingering over the makeup that concealed fingerprint bruises. You know what I love about you, Keisha? You learn so quickly. No backtalk, no tears, no dramatic exits, just perfect compliance. He pulled her closer, forcing her to straddle his chair. The position made her skin crawl, but resistance meant escalation, and escalation meant hospital visits she couldn't explain. Kiss me like you mean it, he commanded, phone still in one hand, while the other controlled her movement. She leaned down and pressed her lips to his, pouring every ounce of hatred into the performance of desire. He responded with the aggressive possessiveness that marked all his intimate moments, taking rather than sharing, claiming rather than loving. When he finally released her, her lips felt bruised and her soul felt smaller. Much better. He returned to his tablet as if nothing happened. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Make sure my grey Armani is ready and call the car service. Of course. She backed away slowly, not turning until she reached the kitchen doorway. Oh, and Keisha. His voice stopped her cold. Cancel lunch with your sister today. I need you available in case this Henderson situation requires additional attention. Her heart sank. She hadn't spoken to Kendra in 3 weeks, and their monthly calls were the only thing keeping her sane. But arguing would cost more than compliance. I'll call her now. Good girl. As Marcus left for his meeting, Keisha waited until his Tesla pulled out of the circular drive before moving to their bedroom closet. Behind the shoe rack, past the rows of designer gowns she never chose for herself, sat a small safe he didn't know existed. Inside, a burner phone, USB drives full of security footage, and a photograph that would change everything. She pulled out the photo, Marcus with blood on his knuckles, her unconscious form crumpled on the floor behind him. He'd been so proud of his handiwork that night, so confident in his control, that he'd actually posed for the security camera like some twisted trophy hunter. He had no idea she'd installed additional cameras throughout the house. Cameras that caught everything, every slap, every threat, every moment of violence he thought no one would ever witness. Today she would send this photograph to someone who could use it. Someone who'd been waiting for proof that Marcus Wellington wasn't the humanitarian tech genius the world believed him to be. Her hands shook as she typed the message on her burner phone. 3 words that would start a war. It's time, Kendra. Have you ever had to smile through pain to survive? Tell me in the comments what you'd do in her position. As Marcus left for his board meeting that morning, Keisha opened the hidden safe in their closet. Today, she would take the one photograph that would change everything. The merger deal that would make him billions became the rage that nearly made her a statistic. Marcus stormed through the front door at 11:47 p.m. like a Category 5 hurricane with a $3,000 suit and a $300 million grudge. The Henderson deal hadn't just failed. It had been murdered by his own board members, executives he'd handpicked who suddenly grew spines when it mattered most. Keisha heard his Tesla in the driveway and felt her body prepare for war. She'd spent the evening in the study, researching lawyers and safe houses on her burner phone, but none of that preparation could shield her from what came next. Keisha! His voice shattered the mansion's silence like breaking glass. She appeared at the top of the staircase, hands steady despite the earthquake in her chest. I'm here. Get down here. Now. Each step down felt like a countdown to execution. Marcus paced the foyer like a caged predator, his perfect hair disheveled, his $1 million confidence cracked and bleeding. Do you know what your husband does for a living, baby? His tone was conversational, which made it infinitely more dangerous. I build empires. I turn ideas into gold and gold into power. Today, a group of weak-minded fools decided they knew better than I do about risk management. Keisha remained silent. Speaking would be like throwing gasoline on a wildfire. $300 million. Gone. Because shareholders got nervous about ethical implications and public relations concerns. He laughed bitterly. Ethics don't pay dividends. Ethics don't revolutionize medicine. Ethics are for people who lack the vision to change the world. He moved toward her with predatory grace. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? You've never built anything. Never created anything of value. You're just decorative. The slap came without warning, spinning her head to the side and flooding her mouth with copper. But pain was familiar territory, humiliation was her daily bread. What was new was the coldness settling in her chest, not fear, but calculation. I've given you everything, he continued, circling her like a shark scenting blood. This house, those clothes, a lifestyle most women would kill for. And what do I get in return? A wife who flinches when I touch her, who acts like my affection is some kind of assault. Another blow, this time to her ribs, doubling her over. Stand up straight when I'm talking to you. She straightened, vision swimming, and saw him pulling out his phone. Her heart stopped. You know what I think you need? A reminder of how good you have it here. His fingers moved across the screen with practiced ease. I'm going to call your precious sister Kendra and tell her exactly what kind of woman her twin turned out to be. Maybe I'll send her some photos of your behavioral corrections. Please, the word escaped before she could stop it. Oh, now you want to talk? He grabbed her chin, forcing eye contact. Too late, baby. You had years to show gratitude, years to appreciate what I've built for us. Instead, you've been sulking around here like some victim in a melodrama. He shoved her backward onto the marble floor, her head cracking against the stone with a sound that echoed through the foyer. Stars exploded behind her eyes as he knelt beside her. Here's what's going to happen, he whispered, breath hot against her ear. You're going to learn to appreciate your position in this household. Starting tonight. His hands moved with brutal efficiency, tearing at her clothes while she fought to stay conscious. This wasn't about desire, it was about domination. About reasserting control when his professional world had made him feel powerless. Please, Marcus, don't. Shut up. You lost the right to please and don't about $300 million ago. The assault that followed broke something inside her that had nothing to do with bones or bruises. It shattered the last illusion that love could survive where respect had died. That marriage could exist where partnership was just another word for ownership. When he finished, he stood over her broken form with the satisfaction of someone who'd successfully reasserted natural order. "Clean yourself up," he said, adjusting his torn shirt, "and tomorrow you're going to smile at breakfast like none of this happened. Because if you don't, if you even think about running your mouth to anyone about our private business, I'll destroy every person you've ever cared about. Your sister's law practice in Houston, gone. Your mother's medical insurance in Atlanta, cancelled. That little scholarship fund you think I don't know about, dissolved." He headed toward the stairs, then paused. "Oh, and Keisha. Next time I come home with bad news, maybe greet me with enthusiasm instead of that martyred look you've perfected. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership, after all." Alone on the cold marble, Keisha felt consciousness slipping away. But even as darkness closed in, her hand found the tiny recording device she'd hidden in her bra earlier that evening. The device that had captured every word, every threat, every admission of the systematic campaign he'd waged against her identity. As consciousness faded, Keisha whispered 2 words into her hidden recording device. Words that would destroy Marcus Wellington forever. At what point does survival become more important than love? Share your thoughts below. He expected tears and apologies, but found only silence and the ghost of his own brutality. Marcus woke at 6:15 a.m. to the absence of his usual coffee aroma. The house felt different, not peaceful, but hollow, like a monument built on quicksand, suddenly feeling the ground shift beneath. "Keisha?" His voice bounced off empty walls. No response from the kitchen, no sounds of morning routine. Just the kind of silence that makes successful men remember what fear feels like. He found the master bedroom exactly as he'd left it. King-size bed, undisturbed, her side cold and untouched. The walk-in closet revealed missing clothes, gaps in the jewelry display like a smile with knocked-out teeth. The wedding ring sat on the nightstand like an accusation. Panic crept up his spine as he moved through the house. Her car was gone from the garage. Her phone, the one he monitored through family tracking apps, lay shattered on the kitchen counter. But it was the blood that stopped him cold. Dark drops led from the foyer where he'd left her broken the night before, through the kitchen, toward the garage. Not enough to indicate serious injury, but enough to prove she'd moved under her own power after he'd gone to bed. Marcus pulled out his phone and called her sister. "Kendra speaking." "Where is she?" No pleasantries, no pretense of civility. "I'm sorry, who is this?" "Don't play games with me, Kendra." "Where's your sister?" A pause stretched between Houston and Palo Alto, filled with the kind of tension that precedes declarations of war. "Marcus, is that you? It's 6 in the morning. Keisha's gone. Her car, her clothes, everything. You two are joined at the hip, so I know she called you." "She didn't call me." Kendra's voice carried genuine confusion. "What do you mean, gone? Did you have a fight?" Something in her tone made Marcus hesitate. Either Kendra was an Academy Award-level actress, or she truly had no idea where Keisha had vanished to. "She'll come back," he said, more to convince himself than to inform Kendra. "She always comes back." "Marcus, what did you do?" The question hit like a physical blow. "I'm her husband. I don't have to do anything." That's not an answer. He ended the call and spent the next 3 hours calling every hotel within a 50-mile radius. No Keisha Wellington, no credit card activity, no digital footprints for a woman who'd lived entirely within his financial ecosystem for 8 years. By 10 a.m., his panic had crystallized into something sharper. Rage. How dare she leave him? How dare she abandon everything he'd built for them, everything he'd given her? He called his assistant. "Cancel my morning meetings. I need you to run a trace on Keisha's credit cards and bank accounts." "Sir, is everything all right?" "Just do it, Jennifer. And pull the security footage from the house for the last 24 hours. But when Jennifer called back an hour later, her voice carried the kind of careful neutrality that preceded very bad news. "Mr. Wellington." The credit cards have been cancelled. Mrs. Wellington closed her accounts yesterday afternoon. And sir, someone accessed your private server last night. They downloaded files from your personal directory. The phone slipped from his nerveless fingers. She hadn't just left him, she'd taken insurance. The mansion felt like a mausoleum as Marcus moved from room to room, searching for clues about how his perfectly controlled wife had orchestrated such a comprehensive disappearance. In the study, he found financial documents he didn't remember leaving out. In the bedroom, he discovered his private safe had been opened and certain photographs were missing. By evening, he understood the scope of his miscalculation. Keisha hadn't run away in tears after a domestic dispute. She'd executed a strategic withdrawal after collecting evidence for 8 years. His hands shook as he poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon. Outside, Palo Alto's sunset painted his glass walls gold, but all Marcus could see were shadows that looked like his wife's bruises. The first anonymous email arrived at 3 a.m. with video footage he thought no one would ever see, and a message, "Day 1 of your education." Have you ever realized too late that you underestimated someone? Drop a fire emoji if you've seen karma catch up. His empire built on control crumbled as someone pulled strings he didn't even know existed. Marcus stared at his computer screen as his net worth evaporated in real time. Numbers that once represented power now flashed red like warning signals on a sinking ship. Silicon Valley's golden boy watched his reflection fracture in the windows of his corner office as reporters gathered like vultures outside. "Mr. Wellington?" Jennifer's voice cracked through the intercom. "The board wants an emergency meeting. Now." 3 days since Keisha's disappearance, and his world was collapsing faster than a house of cards in an earthquake. Someone had been systematically draining his business accounts, transferring funds to shell companies that vanished the moment authorities tried to trace them. But the money was just the beginning. "Sir, there's more." Jennifer appeared in his doorway, tablet in hand and terror in her eyes. "Every board member received an email this morning. Video files. I can't stay here anymore." She placed her resignation letter on his desk and backed toward the door like he was carrying a contagious disease. "Jennifer, wait." He moved toward her with the kind of desperation that made powerful men look pathetic. "Whatever you think you saw, I can explain." "Don't." Her voice carried disgust that cut deeper than any blade. "Just don't." The door slammed behind her, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of his crumbling empire. He pulled up the email that had destroyed 8 years of carefully constructed reputation in a single morning. The video was crystal clear, high-definition footage of him slapping Keisha across their kitchen, audio that captured his threats about destroying her family, timestamp after timestamp proving a pattern of abuse that spanned their entire marriage. At the bottom of the email, a simple message. A man who terrorizes his wife doesn't deserve to lead a company that claims to value human dignity. His phone rang. Board members, investors, business partners, all demanding explanations he couldn't give without admitting to crimes he'd convinced himself were just domestic discipline. "Marcus, what the hell is this?" Robert Chen's voice carried the kind of fury reserved for friends who discover they've been harboring monsters. 8 years, Marcus. 8 years I've vouched for your character. "It's complicated, Robert." "Complicated? You beat your wife. There's nothing complicated about being a piece of trash who hits women." The line went dead. By noon, Welltech Industries' stock had plummeted 40%. By 2 p.m., major clients were terminating contracts. By 4 p.m., Marcus Wellington was unemployed for the first time since college. But whoever was destroying him wasn't finished. The package arrived at 6 p.m., delivered by a courier who vanished before Marcus could question him. Inside, Keisha's bloodied designer dress from the night he'd nearly killed her, still stiff with dried crimson evidence of his brutality. The note attached made his hands shake like leaves in a hurricane. "You wanted to own me. Now you'll pay for every bruise." Marcus dropped the dress like it was made of acid. The fabric hit his marble floor with a sound that echoed through his empty mansion, each thread a testament to the violence he'd inflicted and the justice that was coming for him. His phone buzzed with news alerts. Tech blogs were picking up the story. Social media was exploding with calls for his arrest. Someone had leaked not just the videos, but financial records showing how he'd used company resources to monitor Keisha's every movement, to isolate her from potential support systems. Wellington Tech CEO under investigation for domestic violence and corporate fraud, read the headline on TechCrunch. The man who'd built his empire on controlling every variable had become a variable in someone else's equation, and whoever was pulling the strings was 10 steps ahead of his best countermoves. As night fell over Palo Alto, Marcus sat in his darkened mansion, surrounded by the ruins of everything he'd built. Outside, protesters had gathered on his street, their chants carrying through bulletproof windows. No more silence, no more violence. His reflection in the black windows looked like a stranger, hollow-eyed, broken, afraid. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Wellington had no idea what came next. The doorbell rang at midnight. What's more satisfying, instant revenge or watching someone's world slowly crumble? Tell me which you prefer. When Marcus opened the package containing her bloodied designer dress, the note inside made his hands shake. You wanted to own me. Now you'll pay for every bruise. She was everywhere and nowhere, in his bank accounts, his business deals, his nightmares, but never where he could find her. The private investigator's office reeked of coffee and cynicism, manila folders stacked like tombstones for Marcus's dying reputation. Frank Morrison had the kind of weathered face that came from 20 years of exposing people's ugliest secrets. But even he looked uncomfortable as Marcus paced his cramped office like a caged animal. She just vanished, Marcus insisted for the third time. People don't just disappear without a trace. Not in 2023. Not with all the technology we have. Frank lit another cigarette, ignoring the no smoking sign on his own wall. Your wife was smart, Mr. Wellington, smarter than you gave her credit for, apparently. She planned this for months, maybe years. That's impossible. Keisha couldn't organize a grocery list without my help. The investigator's laugh carried no humor. That's what every abusive husband says right before his wife takes him to the cleaners. You want to know what I found? Your wife had a completely separate life you knew nothing about. Frank spread photographs across his desk like tarot cards predicting doom. Images of Keisha meeting with lawyers, visiting women's shelters, attending support group meetings in Oakland. All while Marcus thought she was shopping or getting her nails done. Underground network, Frank continued, smoke curling around his words. Women helping other women disappear when the system fails them. Your wife wasn't just part of it. She was one of their top coordinators. Marcus felt reality shift beneath his feet. You're lying. Bank records don't lie. Phone records don't lie. Security footage from a dozen different locations showing your wife living a double life while you thought you had her under your thumb. The photographs showed a Keisha he didn't recognize. Confident, animated, laughing with other women who shared stories of survival. In every image, she looked more alive than she'd ever appeared in their mansion. She was documenting everything, Frank said, tapping ash into an empty coffee cup. Every bruise, every threat, every time you lost control, built a legal case that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. If she was so prepared, why disappear? Why not just leave?